Hello and welcome back to the Happy Investor Podcast. And today we've got another Sophie with us, Sophie Milliken. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sophie. You can never have too many Sophies, right?
I know, we are the greatest. So I saw you last week at a business retreat, which was lovely. But for our listeners who don't know you, can you give us a bit of an introduction and tell us about you, please?
Gosh, it's always quite hard to do introductions, I think, as you get older, because you've added so many different things onto what you do. But I'm Sophie. I live in the northeast of England, and I'm really passionate about the northeast as a place to live and work. And I had a long corporate career with John Lewis for 12, 13 years and left to set up my first business, which was a graduate recruitment consultancy. So we used to design assessment processes and materials for big companies like M&S, AXA, Expedia. But the fun bit of that business was actually we used to hire out football stadiums around the country and put thousands of students through mock assessment centres to help prepare them for going for the real thing with employers. And that business became really successful when I became really well known for that niche. And it got to a point where I was approached to sell it. I sold it in 2019, stayed on for a year to do my earnout, and then absolutely hated it because the investors that we had were horrible and I really clashed with them from an ethics perspective. So decided to leave, wasn't allowed to operate in that industry for 9 months. So I set up another business the same night as we do when we're not wanting to rest and just get straight into the next thing. So I now own Moja, which is a personal branding agency where we do all sorts of different things for clients to raise their profiles, because that's what made my first business successful. So things like podcasting, awards, books, networking, speaking, all of those different kinds of things. So that's the day job. And then alongside that, I chair a fantastic charity called SmartWorks Northeast, where we provide interview, clothing and coaching to unemployed women across the whole of the region. And I also sit on a few boards as a non-exec director, the most recent one being the Northeast Combined Authority Business and Economy Board, which is super interesting because I'm the only small business owner on that board. So it's given me lots of opportunities to represent small business owners.
This is amazing. You've done so much.
There's a lot going
Right,
on.
let me pick your brains on all of it. So let's talk about you selling your business, because I think a lot of people start a business. It's something they love doing. They don't think about the exit. They don't think about, okay, how am I going to get out of this if I do? And I think a lot of businesses close or fail or get passed on, or they just wind them up. So when do you think people should start thinking about the exit? And how did you sell your business?
So I think people, and this is coming from hindsight and experience, I did not think like this at the start. So exactly as you described, when I set up that first business, it was more of a necessity business because I'd had a really good corporate wage because I was working in London at the John Lewis head office. I'd moved back to Newcastle. So a London salary for me in that role, I was pretty senior. So I was on a lot of money, and then they were moving my role out to Bracknell. I didn't want to do that commute. So I was looking at jobs back in Newcastle and they were paying like a third of what I was on. And I was only 30-ish at the time. So I didn't want to take that much of a step back. So for me, I set up the first business because I couldn't see anything else. So I never set that up thinking, oh, I'm going to sell it for this amount of money in 6 years' time or whatever it was. I just set it up because that's what I wanted to do. With this business, I've set it up completely differently with that knowledge. So I think people should be thinking about it from day one. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm setting up this business to sell it. It might be, for some people it might be, but I think people need to have it on their radar, even from how they set the business up and the way they go about business. So for this business, we've got everything, all the documentation in place that you need when you do sell a business, so that we're not scrapping around for it if and when that point comes. But it was the point where what actually happened with that first business was that I'd become really, really well known in that industry. Like, everyone knew who I was. I had a best-selling book that did really well, that attracted a lot of attention. And I had this snowball effect of doing that first book, winning awards, being offered some TV stuff, some radio stuff, a TEDx talk. I didn't even realize that you normally have to apply for them, and I got offered 2. Like, all these things happened, and that then put me on the radar of someone that wanted to buy the business. So I hadn't thought about it at all. And they approached me. And actually, it was looking back, it was all a bit underhand because they didn't approach me to buy the business. They said, "Oh, you're doing these amazing things in this space. Let's collaborate." We did a couple of events together. And then it was a bit of a gradual thing. But like I say, now I would just do things so differently because when you get to the point of selling the business, you've got a lot of due diligence processes that you need to go through, and you have to have everything in its place and in some kind of order to be able to get through that process and retain the value that you think you should get for that business. I think other things to think about now that I wouldn't have thought about then are making sure that you've got great advisors to get you the best possible price for your business, making sure the contracts are tight around when you get your earnout and what that looks like, and things like restrictions for when you do leave if you want to leave. The other thing is that there are so many ways to exit a business that I didn't really think about. So now I wouldn't just be thinking about selling it. I would consider a management buyout or an employee ownership trust. So there's
Mm.
different ways to go about it. And again, anyone that's thinking about that needs to speak to people that have been there and have done that so that they can hear what those experiences have been and look out for things that might catch them out, or just work out the best event for them in terms
Yeah.
of exiting.
Yeah, definitely. Because we're selling one at the moment. And I think it's important to get it ready for the sale for at least a
Yes.
year or two, because
Yes.
they're going to look back at all your profit and loss, your management accounts, your balance sheet. And that has to look good for the last couple of years to come to the value. And there's lots of different ways of valuing a business, aren't there? It can
Yeah.
be, the net profit, the gross profit, the revenue, the EBITDA. So it is really good to take advice if you're doing it for
Mm.
the first time, I think.
I totally agree. And your point around preparing for sale, that is so important. So I've got an angel investment in Score App, which is a great platform with quiz technology and that sort of thing. And we are preparing to sell that at the moment. So it is a process that you go through, that you get all of your ducks in a row or whatever that may be. And I think it's not underestimating that. And by doing that as well, it shows that you're a serious seller and that you're going to attract better offers, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, very exciting times, aren't they?
Mm.
So you're an expert in helping people become an authority and raising people's profile.
Mm.
So if people are here and they've got their own business and they're thinking, yes, I want to be an authority, what kind of things do they need to be doing?
Gosh, so there's so many things that people can be doing, and I think it's important. And as well, I think it's important to realize that personal branding is more than just a banging LinkedIn post or an Instagram post or whatever it may be, because I think I've shied away from using that term in the past because that's what I think people associate with personal branding. And we know now that it's so much more than that. And there's all sorts of people kind of coming out now and offering different parts of personal branding. So, our mutual friend Lisa is about to launch a personal branding agency, but she's doing all of that upfront stuff around what do you stand for and what is your brand. So she's kind of like the first bit. We're kind of like the ongoing bit. And for me, then social media is the last bit. So for me, it's all the things that pop up when someone Googles your name, because when someone's meeting you for the first time, that tends to be what they do. And it can in itself create loads of opportunities. I've been offered non-exec roles just by people, or approached for non-exec roles just by people doing a Google search and going, "Oh my God, you've done this, this and this. We need to speak to you." And then, these are roles that don't even get advertised. And then because they've already made some assumptions about you based on what they've found when they've done that search, it makes things like an interview for a role like that super easy because they've already decided that they know and they like you and they trust you. So the things that we are encouraging people to do are things like podcasting. So the ideal is that you host your own, like you do, like
Yeah.
I do. It gives you loads of content, that it's hosted on really quality platforms. So most podcasts are going to be hosted on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple. These are great quality platforms that we want associated with our names when people
Yeah.
look for us. As well, guesting on other people's podcasts, then you've got this kind of cross audience type situation. It's probably not the word for it, but you know what I mean. You're benefiting from being introduced to new audiences and sharing. I think networking is a really important part of of a personal branding strategy. So making sure that you're at the right events, whether it's speaking at them or attending them, and having a game plan around that. I think it's is speaking. So speaking at an event and being really great at giving value to that audience, but also inviting them to connect with you, because so many speakers don't mention that, or they might mention it at the end when people are kind of thinking about going for lunch or getting that
Yeah.
coffee. Whenever I'd speak at an event up front, I'm asking them to connect with me. I'm making it easy. I've got a QR code on the screen. So every time I come off a stage, hopefully I've got a couple of hundred or whatever the audience is,
Mm.
connection requests there. So it's things like that. Books. So I think having a book is the greatest business card you can ever have. I've done 3 and they have created so many opportunities for me, because if you can get 30 or 40,000 words into a book, you are immediately an expert in something. So
Yeah.
that has been a huge game changer. And it allows you to get onto better quality podcasts as well, because, all the big podcasts, their guests are always authors. So it does give you that. And I think things like awards can be really powerful as well, but really, really important that it's the right kind of awards. So no scammy awards or things where you've got to
Yes.
vote
Can
for
we go for the
people. Or,
awards, please? Because I've
yeah,
like come across ones where it's literally like, pay us 15 quid and
yeah.
you'll become the finalist, and then you might win.
No,
You don't need to turn up. Or yeah. Well, how do
they
we figure out awards?
They are so gross. I hate those. So I have a bit of a list of things that make an award sort of scream scam alert to me. So if you're approached and you've been sent an email or a message that says, "Hey, you've won this award," you're like, "What?" And it'll be something really random. Like for you, it might be most innovative property investor in the south of wherever you are, like just really random stuff that you've never applied for. And then there's no ceremony, but actually you can pay $1,000 to be in someone's crap magazine that doesn't exist and get a crap crystal trophy. Like, stay away from those. Everyone knows that they're crap now, so you don't want to be involved in those. Or ones where you've got to buy a table to at the awards to get the award. So they're scammy. I always think that it's worth just doing a quick Google check of the awards, because you can find things like previous press coverage in the news tab, and that you would be able to work out, and your kind of am I allowed to swear on your
Yeah.
podcast? So your bullshit
Go for it.
detector would be going off if there's nothing there. But equally, if there's really credible people that you know in your industry that have won these, you'd be like, oh yeah, they look good. I'd be looking at, who are the judges for these awards? Are they credible people that you see as being, serious business people in your industry? Previous winners, again, are they people that are a few steps ahead of you that you understand why they would have won? So there's quite a few things like that where you can work it out. The other ones that I really dislike, although it doesn't always mean they're scammy, but I don't like it, is where it's like a popularity contest where you've been shortlisted and you need to go and canvass votes. I find that quite tacky. I don't love that. So there's all these different things that you can look at and work out whether you want to go for them. And I think this is a great time of year for people to be thinking about awards, because most of the awards either aren't open yet, or they're open. They've just opened and the deadlines are away. So it's then thinking about, right, what do I want to go for throughout this year? Because I think awards should be a strong part of anyone's marketing strategy,
Yeah.
because if you go for the right ones, and you put a good quality entry in, which is why you need to think carefully about how many you're going to go for and do proper entries, then the publicity you can get from them is huge. So if you become a finalist, that's what being shortlisted is. You're immediately a finalist. You've usually got 3 months where you can milk that, because it's a while till the awards ceremony. So amazing. And for those people listening or watching that use LinkedIn a lot, awards posts do really well on LinkedIn, because most people are quite nice to each other on LinkedIn. So if you say,
Yeah.
hey, you've been shortlisted for this award, you'll get loads of engagement. You can then say that you're a finalist even if you don't win. So you can be using that badge in your email signature, in any proposals you might do for clients, on your website. And then if you win, even better, because you're then the award winner. And, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I record every award piece of award success that we've had, even if we just stay a finalist and we didn't win. So
Yeah.
you can see it. And I'm really upfront about whether we were a finalist or a winner. But it means that we've got that credibility because it's proper awards. And then you've got the networking at an awards do as well. I've met some amazing people at awards events who have gone on to become clients or collaborators or suppliers to me. And that's the power of getting in the right room with really high quality
Mm.
people. So I'm a big fan of awards, but they've got to be the right ones.
Yes, that sounds like good advice. So, what I'm hearing is to get our profile raised and become the authority, it's a sprinkling of all these different things: podcasting, speaking, books, awards, just getting yourself out there as that voice of leadership,
100%.
basically.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, let's all go and do that. And can you talk to me about City Ladies Networking? Because this
Mm.
sounds fun.
So City Ladies is a bit of a side hustle, although I wish I had more time to spend on it because I think it could be a really good, great business. It is a great business, but I think it could be a big business in its own right. So basically, when I moved back to Newcastle after living in London for 8 years and not knowing anyone in business apart from people at the John Lewis, I started going to different networking events and they were so bad, like really bad, where I just get stood next to an old man accountant who I just couldn't escape from for the whole hour. And then I just think, God, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. And then something called Forward Ladies that it doesn't exist. It does, but it's something else and they don't do breakfasts anymore. That came to Newcastle and I went to the launch event and I just thought, ooh, this feels different. This feels really more modern. It's for women. And I'd been to women only events and they'd not been modern at all and they'd been really awkward. So that felt really great for me. And then they were hosting monthly breakfasts and I got actually in with a really great crowd of women. We were all doing quite different things, but we just bonded by going to these events every month. And we would then have our own group chat and then it became a bit more personal as well as business. And I'm still friends with most of them now. And then when the owner of Forward Ladies decided to stop doing the breakfast, a couple of us were like, no way, these are like the best part of what you do. She's like, they're not commercial. So we said, well, could we buy that part of the business from you and we'll run it. So we came to an agreement with her. And then at that point, it was Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and London were the venues. And we did this huge launch in Newcastle, and then the pandemic closed us down in month
Oh,
2. So it was really unfortunate timing. So we did it online throughout the pandemic, which wasn't the same. It wasn't the same, but at least it gave us sort of, some level of momentum and kept people engaged. And then when we came out of the pandemic, we never did Middlesbrough again. I mean, it might come back. So we were just doing Newcastle and London. And then we got approached by one of our London regulars who was moving to Paris to say, can I be your Paris host? And we were like, yeah, that
oh,
sounds fun. So we opened Paris just over 2 years ago. And then we've become a bit more intentional since then because the events sell out. The format is that we have a 9:30, well, depending on where the venue is, but usually a 9:30 arrival or 10, depending on which one. So that anyone that's got caring responsibilities like school drop-offs and stuff, it usually still fits in for them because that was a barrier that we were finding
yeah.
before. And they'll come along, informal networking, bit of breakfast and some coffee, and then we sit down and we do a round of intros, and then we have a speaker. So the speaker might talk about something practical. Our London ladies love something practical where they can learn something. Newcastle love a career journey, so that tends to be what we do there. But we mix it up, and then Q&A, and then another coffee, and then people head off about 11. So it works really well in that sense. But we've now got to a point where we're being approached a lot to open new venues. So we've got Nice in the south of France
Oh,
starting next month. So that's exciting. Northampton is starting in April. And then we haven't got dates yet, but this year we will do Watford, Brighton, Reading, maybe Manchester, and maybe Dubai. So we've got a
oh,
few more in our sights. So like I say, it could be a really great business on its own,
yeah,
and it is. I mean, in a commercial
yeah.
sense, and yeah, it's really exciting, and I meet really great people through that, and it's fun. It's a good group. It's a solid group, and there's a Facebook group and there's a LinkedIn page as well, so you see things happening as well in between meetings.
Okay, well, if you need a Bournemouth host, I'm in.
Well, if you can commit to hosting it every month, then
Yeah,
we can talk about it for
I'm in, I'm
sure.
in, count me in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
send you
it's
some
just
info.
so nice 'cause so many of us work from home now, don't we? And it's
Well, I don't
just
work from
so
home, and I hate working from home. I really struggle with it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people that come to our events work from home, and then that's them getting out and, being out there. But I don't know how you keep motivated. I really am impressed with people that work from home. I mean, I'm lucky in that our office is in the centre of town, and I live 10 minutes away, so I kind of get the best of both. But I always get distracted when I work at home, or I'm the other way, and I just like I'm so into it that I forget to have lunch, and then I've been working since early till late, and I'm like, "Oh, I've just lost the whole day and I've not left the house."
yeah, I hyper focus a lot, but we have just got a puppy.
Well,
So she's
that's
nice and
good. Yeah,
distracting.
that's good. I think people with dogs, that they're the best people to work at home because they have
Yeah.
to go out, don't they?
Yeah, but yeah, I love going to events. That's why, we were at the retreat last week. Before that, I was in London. I went to another business event. So yes, I do get out and about a lot. But I don't have a local ladies who breakfast. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, well, you need to create it. And I think when you're the host as well, like you would then be in charge of identifying speakers. I mean, we have speakers that apply through the website for different locations, but it would be a great way for you to, yeah, really kind of get out and about where you are. And I've got a friend actually that lives in Bournemouth as well, who maybe you could team up with her or something, or
There
she
you
could come
go.
and
We
speak
can
at the event.
collab.
Um, yeah, quite a funny story actually. So she, this is so random, and I am going off on a tangent here, but she was my hairdresser, right? She's called Wendy, and she was my hairdresser, and I loved her. And she used to come to my house as well, and she was amazing. And then she met. Do you remember Brandon Block, the DJ in the sort of late 90s?
No,
You'd have to
it
Google
rings
him.
a bell.
He was quite a character. He was really drunk, maybe a bit off his head as well, at the Brit Awards one year, and he went up when I think Ronnie Wood was on stage, and he did something wild. Anyway, he had quite a reputation back in the day, and she met him on a train down to London and ended up moving to London, and then they now live in Bournemouth. So that like, so random.
I need to meet
So
up with Wendy.
she's cool, and she does a great hair color as well. She was
Oh,
amazing.
okay.
I
I
really
really
miss
need to meet
her.
Wendy.
She was so good. Yeah.
Amazing. Can we go back to one of the things you said about raising your authority in your profile about
Mm.
being on boards? Because I
Mm.
don't think many people know about this. So, what is it and how can we do it?
So I think being on boards again is really great. And with boards, there's two ways. So you can either be a charity trustee board member, which actually has extra levels of responsibility because you would probably sit at companies' house as a non-exec director and at the charities commission as a trustee. So in some ways, the legal responsibilities are higher, but they tend to be unpaid versus being a non-exec director where you usually get a fee or equity if it was a smaller business. So there's two different things. And what I tend to say is if you want a portfolio of roles, which a lot of people later on in their careers quite like to do that, then you're better off going for the charity route first because they're easier to get and you can cut your teeth and you get a lot of training in those roles. So I've done both. I've got paid and unpaid roles. But what you tend to find is they're not advertised very often. So charity roles would get advertised, but those bigger paid roles, unless it's something that's a public role, it tends to be a headhunter that will come and find you. So I think they're great for raising your profile because you get associated with whichever board or charity that is. So you're getting any positive press around those. But I never, again, did this intentionally to raise my profile. I've always worked on boards where I've just been really aligned to whatever it is
Mm.
that they're doing. And I've now realized that actually it's a really great way of raising your profile as well. So for me, if I was advising someone to look at it, a couple of things I would do would be I'd make sure I'd suggest that anyone make sure that their LinkedIn profile is fully up to date because that will be the profile that they would be looking at. I'd make sure that you've got a CV that's a non-executive CV. So if we think about CVs in a traditional sense, they'll tend to have a bit of a personal profile at the start and then go straight into your work history and then maybe education, maybe some skills or further qualifications, and then maybe some interests. with a non-exec one, you need to make it very much about the strategy side of things and how you've impacted on that. So you kind of flip it a bit. So my non-exec CV has all of my non-exec roles first, then it has my work roles. So it's written in a different way. So you need to think very much about how you would contribute to that role without being too operational, which is something I see newer non-execs do, because the temptation is you want to go and fix things, but actually typically you're attending maybe 4 to 6 board meetings a year in that hands-off strategic capacity. So you've got to really change your mindset around that. And as well, it's thinking about what are the specific skills that you can bring, because typically boards will be looking for one skill set when they're hiring. So it might be finance, it might be HR, it might be marketing, whatever it is. Then you need to think about how you are demonstrating that and how you can. But yeah, I think, non-exec roles are the way to go. I would love to, in sort of 5-10 years, have a portfolio of those kind of roles. And then that's me probably forever, that in that I would love to do that and never retire and just always have a few things on the go. Some of them are really well paid as well. You can get quite a range of fees for those roles. And obviously the more experience you have, the more desirable you're going to be for those higher paid ones. But it's not uncommon, if you were a non-exec for, a FTSE 250, to get 80, 90, 100, grand a year
Yeah.
for these roles. And they are quite light touch in terms of the meetings that you attend. So they can be very lucrative.
Yeah, that sounds quite fascinating. And so you turn up 4 or 6 times a year, and then you just get a picture of what's going on within this business. That sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be a lot of prep in advance of the meeting. So I had a board meeting for a non-exec role that I have last Thursday, and I had maybe 15 pages of reading in terms of reports and things pre-meeting, although that's not too bad. I've got a charity board meeting on this Wednesday night, and I think I've got maybe 30 pages to read for that. So it depends what's going on, and obviously you want to rock up and be really prepared and able to contribute to that conversation to be demonstrating your worth in that role. But yeah, they're really interesting. And I think the fact that you are hands off and you can see things, it's like if you were chatting to a mate about a business challenge, you can see loads of things in their business that they could be doing that they don't see because they're in it.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like that at a higher level.
Yeah. Amazing. And as a growing business, do we need a board? When would
That's
we
good.
start thinking about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends on where you're going. So I would be saying, if someone's a growing business and you've got maybe a specific aim around wanting to sell at a certain point or wanting to scale to a certain point, I would be saying probably not a board, although it would depend on the size of your business. But I think there's a huge value in having non-exec directors. So I'd be thinking, and it's something I've been thinking about for my own business. So I want it to get to a certain level. We've got a certain team size at the moment. I want to grow that. And I was thinking about individuals that I know would add huge amount of value to the business, who understand our industry and know what we do. So I've kind of identified a couple of people that I might be keen to speak to and bring them in as a non-exec. And I think for, businesses that are kind of mid 6 figures up to maybe, so about 500,000 up to 2 million, say, you could easily have 1 or 2 non-exec directors and expect to pay them, I don't know, 20 grand a year maybe, to come in and do some stuff, or you give them a bit of equity and they become an investor director. So you could do different things with that. But I think you'd want to have very clear contracts with these people around what it is that you're expecting them to do. So I was a non-exec for a business that was probably, what would that business have been doing? It wasn't at 1 million. It probably wasn't far off. And the founder of that business was really wanting to scale to a certain point, and she wanted to get into new areas, etc. And we had very clear contract around what she wanted me to do in that role as non-exec. So yes, it was attending the board meetings, but she also wanted me to be a bit of an ambassador for that business, where I could identify opportunities where I could introduce people to her. So you can be really clear around things like that, because they can go wrong. So you want to just make sure you're really
Yeah,
contracting with someone up front about what that looks like, and you've got review periods at certain points, and
yeah.
or you renew annually so that you can
Mm.
see that both sides are getting value. But
Yeah.
I think there can be a lot to be said for that, especially if the person's got a decent profile and they're potentially bringing business to you as well, then that can be obviously an added benefit.
Yeah, I think it sounds really interesting because if you're growing your business, it's like new level, new devil. You don't know what you don't know. It
I
gets
like
harder and
that.
harder. And to bring someone on who's super experienced and say, look, I just need you as a non executive director. Come and meet me quarterly, give me all your insights. That would be really beneficial.
I think so, and it's working out. Are they a non-executive director or are they a business consultant? So which one is it? And I think it's just being really clear because obviously a non-exec director should sit on your business at company's house and then they have some level of legal responsibility, which is why they get paid more. So it's being really clear about what the difference between the two is and what it is that you need right now. But I do think that you can add a lot of kudos to what you do by having the right people as non-exec directors, and they can really push and stretch you to get to that next level.
Yeah, thank you for breaking that down for us. So, this is the Happy Investor podcast. So, can you tell us about some of your investments, whether it's
Mm.
personal, business? What would you be happy to share?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I've got an angel investment in Score app, so that's been really exciting. So
How
one of
did
the
you get involved with that?
so I know. Do you know Daniel Priestley? So I've known Dan for maybe about 10 years now, to be fair. And I do some coaching on one of his business accelerators. And that's kind of got me like in the gang, if you like.
Yeah.
So I'm in this WhatsApp, a couple of WhatsApps with him. And when he was raising for Score App, he kind of put that out to a few of us and I was interested, and it was around the time where I'd sold that first business, so I had quite a lot of cash and I was thinking, yeah, I'll be an investor and I'll do all of this. So I was really up for it, and we had the SEIS benefits as well, so that was great. So so I invested in that personally, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have an exit this year, so Q3 maybe into Q4. So that's been really interesting to learn about that because I've been in that now for quite a
Yeah.
while. So that's been fun. I also have some property investments. So I've got 3 buy to lets. I've got 2 of those in a limited company, and one was kind of an accidental landlord situation, which I'm sure you probably hear about all the time in your game, where I just couldn't sell it when I bought my first house. I've had that. I've had the same tenant for 15 years,
Wow.
which is interesting, but I'm selling that to him at the moment, so
Mm.
I'll get rid of that and just have the 2 in the limited company. So I've got that. I did some investing through a program with Jason Greystone. I don't know if you know him. He's a friend of Dan's, so that's kind of how I got introduced to him, and he advised me, to invest in some Vanguard funds. So I've got a couple of investments in 2 funds there. So I've got a bit of a mix in terms of what I invest
Mm.
in. And when the Score app event happens, I think if we get what we think we're going to get for that, I think I'll have quite a lot of cash to then invest in other businesses. So my plan for
Mm.
that is probably have a really nice holiday, and then I would like to invest in female led or female founded businesses, ideally in the Northeast,
Yeah.
because we don't get as much investment as other parts of the country. So that's something that I would really like to do next.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to do more investing in businesses as well, lots more
Yeah.
angel investing. So we should chat.
Yeah,
Let's get
definitely.
more money into female businesses.
100%. Yeah.
What is the amazing holiday you're going to go on?
I don't know actually, because I feel like I was just thinking about holidays actually this morning. I was thinking I've probably been to most of the places that I wanted to, because when I was growing my first business, I got divorced after about 6 months, and my daughter was only 2 at the time, and I didn't have much income because the business was just starting up. And we didn't go on holiday for a couple of years because I didn't have any money. And then obviously as that business became successful, and then when I sold it, things changed quite dramatically. We went on 8 holidays the year that I sold the business because we sat down and we were like, where do we want to go? So we've done
Yeah.
quite a few cool things together. She's now 14, so she's at a point where she wants to do, she wants to do other things, and she loves going away with me, to be fair. But this year she's doing a school exchange to Australia for 3 weeks, and she's going to France with the school as well. So she's doing her own thing a little bit. But I still want to do like a really luxurious kind of Maldives, really
Mm,
high-end type
yes.
place. I would like to do that, although I worry I'd get bored, but I would like to do that, and I would like to go to Bali. I've not been there. So those kind of, like, really relaxing, lying on a beach. Oh,
Yeah.
I could totally do that as we talk on a wet, cold February morning.
Yeah. We did, Sri Lanka and the Maldives, which was really
Nice,
nice as a because 'cause they're
nice.
quite close together. So we
Yeah.
did like a tour of Sri Lanka where we did,
Oh, amazing.
like the tea plantations and the wildlife sanctuary and stuff, and then we flew down to the Maldives for a few days. So would recommend that if you don't just wanna sit on the beach
That
for the
sounds
whole time.
amazing. Amazing. Yeah, love good holiday.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been amazing. Lots of little golden nuggets on there.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, where can people find you? Let's do a little plug.
Yeah, where can people find me? So I hang out mostly on LinkedIn. You can easily find me by just popping my name in. And I'm also dabbling in Instagram, and I'm committed, especially after our training that we had recently on
Yes.
it, to being more visible on Instagram too.
Fab. Okay, I'll put all your links below on the podcast. All right, then.
Thank
Have a lovely
you.
week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Cool.